Sean, regarding the run defense, what did the film show relative to the lanes that were being developed by the Jets? And overall, in the last 3 games, are there common threads in terms of the breakdowns against the run from week to week?
Yeah, look, good question. And just going through it, our gap integrity has been poor in all 3 games. We got wide yesterday on the big run. And so that's something that was the first topic this morning. In other words, this has been, it's going to be tough to win games if we can't stop the run defensively, and we've got to get it cleaned up. So I'd start with, fitting the right gaps and then understanding scheme-wise what we're getting and how to restrict those holes. And a lot of it, it's not communication, it's technique, but that has to get better.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Sean, I just wanted to ask you about something you sort of mentioned last night after the game. Are you finding yourself impatient at times calling plays, or are you having to guard against that?
Yeah, listen, I think about that all the time. In other words, how a game's unfolding, how you want it to unfold. We got a lot of coverage yesterday, a lot of too high look. It was hard to get down the field with what they were doing defensively, and yet I would have liked for us to have been better running the ball yesterday. And part of that, a good part of that, falls on me and being more patient. Going back and looking at the tape this morning, we had some good runs. Russell did a real good job in the first half with plays that really came outside the framework of design. His off schedule either keeps or throws. But I think that's something for us to be effective right now. Our margin for error, we're going to have to be more patient and better at running the football.
Go ahead, Parker.
Yeah, Sean, sort of building off that, what you said about Russell. Obviously, they had a free runner on the sack late, or the one where he fumbled at the end. Overall, did you think when they got pressure, was it coverage sacks, or what did you think of the way you protected Russell in the passing game?
Yeah, look, we were in some longer yardage situations. The particular play you're discussing at the end of the game was a 5-man protection, and so we're hot off the weak side linebacker. But I thought we could have been a little stronger at tackle. The pocket got collapsed a few times, and he made some things happen. And yet, with the zone coverage we were seeing, those immediate throws or progressions were slower because of the coverage. So cleaning that up and understanding where we're at in the pocket, I think is going to be important. We're going to periodically play a team that decides to be a little bit more coverage driven. We saw it at Chicago, actually, and we're going to have to offset that, with the running game, but also with our ability to attack that coverage.
Go ahead, Eric.
Hey, Coach, from your experience, what are the keys to playing efficient red zone football offensively, and kind of what you see yesterday?
Yeah, look, we had 2 plays on 1st and 10 that should have been better runs. I mean, obviously you have to run the ball well in the red zone. You're any good red zone offense at the end of the season is able to run the ball as well as throw it, but because your passing lanes in your area to work is restricted. We have 2 decent runs to start drives down there that really don't materialize, and there's breakdowns in what we're doing in the running game. But I think that's the thing that, and I knew going into that game that was going to be an important number for us, so it was frustrating. But nonetheless, generally speaking, to be good and efficient in the red zone, your running game has to be efficient.
Go ahead, Zach.
Coach, it seems like nearly every game, each side of the ball has a good half and a bad half. What's the root cause of that issue?
Oh, great question. Look, if I had the answer, we'd be able to address it immediately. But certainly, we've had better or faster starts offensively in the first half, and we haven't in the second half. That has to improve. Yesterday, it was really the tale of two halves. I mean, collectively, we did a lot of things well in the first half. We didn't score like we would have hoped, and then the second half comes out and we struggle offensively. Defensively, we give up the big run, and all of a sudden, we're in one of these close games. So, putting 4 quarters together is obviously one of the things I made a note of this morning.
It's on you, Troy.
Coach, you now face the Chiefs on a short week. You were around them, or at least in part of the Super Bowl coverage with Fox. You know them well. Are they considered a measuring stick, even where your season's going? How do you approach this game against a team that's dominated this team the last 7 years?
Yeah, they do a lot of things well. And quite honestly, they've found ways to win even when it hasn't gone as well as they would have hoped. And it's the sign of a real good football team, a championship team. Offensively, they're multiple. Obviously it starts with Patrick and his ability to move in the pocket. They've got a number of different targets. I think they use their personnel very well. And so you got to defend more than just, 1 or 2 players. Kelsey's a big target. Obviously, defensively, they're very multiple. Steve does a real good job with pressure looks. You get it on first and second down and third down. They have a buffalo package, a dime package, a nickel package. But I would say they're pressure driven. And so you've got to be able to handle that. Those are the things that jump out. And then in the kicking game, we have a veteran in Westhoff. They do too, and Cobb, and he's had a great history of success with special teams. So those are the things that, when you really look at it, a championship team has, and they're playing well in all 3 areas.
Go ahead, Nick.
John, when you have a guy like Marvin who's done a lot of good things from you, but has kind of gone through it the last couple of games with the 3 turnovers, is there a pull aside conversation? How do you sort of just help a young player get through some of that stuff? Yeah,
I mean, look, they're both return turnovers. The reverse, I can't put that on him. We've got to be better with the exchange, and so it's back to, just fielding a punt or fielding a kickoff and getting comfortable in that role. And we're going to continue to grind with him. And those decisions as to, hey, do I fair catch it or do I not? But I think that he's too big of a threat for us, and I'm sure it's something that weighs on him. And yet, I don't want to take the stinger or the aggressiveness away from him.
Go ahead, Brandon.
John, it looked like you were pretty animated at the end of the game there with Russ on the sideline, but I know that it can sometimes be deceiving from the outside. Without getting into specifics, can you kind of characterize what was going on there? Obviously, it's tough with the fumble and everything.
Yeah, I wasn't. I don't think I was that animated. I know. Look, every attention to exchange or discussions I have with Russ, I just wanted to make sure he knew that the will linebacker was the free rusher, so it wasn't as big of an exchange or big deal, I think, maybe as some may have thought.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. Hey, Coach, I guess kind of a 2-part question. The Broncos have lost 15 straight to the Chiefs. I know you obviously weren't a part of that. Do you even bring that up to the players at all? And then the second part, scheduling quirk kind of, what about facing the Chiefs twice in an 18-day span?
Yeah, let me answer that last one first. I think it's not unusual in our league. It's happened a number of times to me where maybe you had Atlanta and then 2 weeks later you had them again. It just, when you look at the master schedule of it all, it generally probably happens. I'm going to guess maybe there's another example of that in our league this year somewhere. So the schedule kind of is what it is. And then it's a division opponent. Obviously, for that to happen, it has to be a division opponent. Relative to the first question, I think, and our focus has got to start internal in a short week here, getting ourselves both physically and mentally ready to play a real good football team on the road in a tough environment. The past 15, I don't know that that's a big topic right now for us. I think for us, it's more about us.
Go ahead, Parker.
Sean, obviously Vegas was a little different just because it was your opener, but in terms of like divisional opponent prep? Do you do more work on those three teams in like during camp, or how do you sort of structure your prep, whether it's the advanced scouting or all of that for divisional opponents in particular?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times there's more focus maybe on the team on top, for instance, Kansas City, and we've had a chance to look at that team probably earlier than just this week. But generally speaking, from my experience, that's been the get ahead work, maybe, if you will, that would take place in the spring.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I had to unmute. Sorry. Sean, how are you worried? Are you concerned or worried at this point about your team sort of mentality? You know, new staff, first year, how hard can you push them and all of those things?
Yeah, I mean, look, you pay attention to all of that. And, you know, one of the things about this league, there's nothing like winning. And then obviously when you're not having success, you've got to dig deep. It's difficult. It's tough. You get up in the morning. It's unpleasant. And yet, but I think I have pretty good instincts relative to how to approach the team and you know, how to guide the team relative to the next challenge. And that's what we're going to do this week.
Looks like that's all the questions.
All right, guys. Hey, thank you.